I'm sure everybody listening to this has gone through some massive change, probably multiple times over the course of their lives. And I'm no different. My wife's no different. Everybody's gone through that. And our family just went through a really big change over the last 6 to 8 months. And it's a very positive change, and it moves our family's trajectory in the right direction. It's great. But there's a huge part of me that just feels like shit about it. And it's really hard for me to process. So back in the summer of 2020, summer of COVID, our family built and moved into kind of our forever home. And it was a beautiful house in Texas, and we really loved it. It checked almost all the boxes that we had. And our plan was, hey, we're going to be here for the long haul until our daughter graduates and goes off to college or whatever she's going to do after high school. And my wife and I were really happy with it. We really liked it. And a year later, we put in a pool for our family, and it was great. And we were kind of really, really enjoying it. We'd sit on the patio and kind of toast each other like, hey, we did it. We got the house. We have a pool. We love the neighborhood. Everything is great. We couldn't have asked for anything more for our setup. And also at that time, my wife had been working for a company where she sort of had a pretty well-defined and accelerated career path for her. So she was moving up, and she had a clear vision of where she was going next, which was going to be more responsibility, more money, all that good stuff. And at the same time, I had been asked to be one of the next owners of the company I was working for. So I was excited about that, and it was going to be, a few month process for paperwork and all that. But basically, within a year and a half of my wife and I moving into our forever home with our daughter, she kind of had a future laid out in front of her. I had a future laid out in front of me. We had our house, we had the pool, our daughter was doing great. And we were like, okay, we're here, and we're here for the long haul. However, a funny thing happened on the way to the long haul. About a year ago, maybe a little more, the company my wife was working for was purchased by another much larger company. So when that happened, it basically just obliterated her career path, not to any fault of hers, but just, new leadership, change in everything, change in pay structure, all that kind of stuff. So basically all of it went out the window in the blink of an eye. And I remember my wife saying like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to hang here. I'm not going to, have any reaction. I'm just going to keep moving forward and doing what I'm doing, and we'll let the dust settle, for about a year or two and then reassess. And also about the same time, for me, the paperwork had been delayed on my end for signing with my company as one of the new owners. And that just happens, or the company, just takes time to get all that stuff processed and everything. So both of us kind of went from having a clear trajectory to kind of being much more muddied and delayed and kind of just sort of, And we both said like, all right, we're just going to, just keep moving forward, and we're not going to do anything crazy, and we're just going to see where this takes us. And about that time, about a year ago, my wife also started getting pursued by another company and said, hey, you should come and work for us. And she was, polite and explained to them, can't really do that. I've got a career, husband's got a career. We have, built our forever house, that whole spiel. And they kept pursuing her. And after a couple of months, with what they were talking about, we couldn't ignore it. So we had to sit down and have a conversation, many conversations. And long story short, after a few months, it was an opportunity that we couldn't pass up. So we actually moved our family from Texas to Arizona, and we brought grandma with us. And that was tough because grandma had a life that she built for herself, and a career, and a house and friends and all of that. So grandma came with us so she could be with her family, and we moved to support my wife. And we're really glad that we did it, and she's doing great at her job, and she loves it and all that. But there's also a part of it that was really, really hard, and I feel like really struggling with it. And my company was kind enough to say, hey, even though you're not going to be able to be an owner anymore, we'd love to create a position for you and have you stay on with the company. So they were great. And I have a perfect dream setup. I work here out of this office. I get to meet with everybody on our team, on a weekly basis. I couldn't have asked for anything better. But honestly, there's a huge part of me that's just lost. I just feel like I'm adrift out in space. I don't know anyone. We've been here almost a year. Like I hardly know anyone. I work in the house all day, so I really don't go anywhere outside of, running my daughter to and from school. We as a family don't really know that many people yet. We're starting to, but I just feel totally lost. And I balance that of not wanting to feel like I'm ungrateful for a wonderful opportunity. And we found a great house here in Arizona. We basically recreated the exact setup that we had in Texas. And I love it. And I should be 100% grateful, and I am. But I don't know if anybody else feels like this, where something happens that's positive, but maybe it isn't what you thought or it isn't what you expected. And you just have this feeling of like, I don't love this. And you have the guilt associated with that because you're like, I should love it, but I don't. And how do you process that?